Mike Griffith earlier from the HAC, the paper there in Atlanta, and also dognation.com, making a big statement and really stirring up a hornet's nest here in Tuscaloosa with this comment.
You could make that case, but I don't think they would deserve a spot. If Georgia has 2 losses, they don't deserve to be in the playoff. Like I said, I think teams should have to win their conference championship game to be in the playoff, regardless of who they are. And if Georgia has 2 losses and Ohio State or Oklahoma has 1 and won their respective conference championship, then in my book, they should be in. But, I mean, if you want to just start going on, like I said before, if we would just want to start going on who the best team is based on the eyeball test, we just pencil Alabama in every year. They could have 2 or 3 losses, and you can make the argument they're the best team with Nick Saban and all the 5 stars they've got. And I don't know. I've heard people tell me on Twitter, oh, well, we want the best 4 teams. Well, at some point, it's got to come down to you deserving it. And Alabama did not deserve to be in the playoff last year. They certainly didn't deserve to have a bye, which is what happened because they didn't have to play in a conference championship game. And Ohio State didn't deserve to be in the playoff the year before. But if you put it in the hands of people, politics are going to enter the equation, and mistakes are going to be made. And I expect that to happen again this year. And until you go back to the computers where there's a transparent formula and everybody knows the rules, the situation and the system's going to be manipulated. That's too bad.
But, Mike, wouldn't you say that the committee got it right, though? I mean, Alabama was able to – maybe the bye week helped.
No, I don't think they got it right. Alabama got a bye last year. Not only did they not have to win their conference championship game, they got to play 1 game less. And then on top of it, they got to play a watered-down Clemson instead of fly to the West Coast and play the best offense in college football. So, no, I don't think they got it right. And I don't think they got it right the year before when Ohio State was in, when they didn't win the Big Ten championship. I think it's wrong. If you're going to have a conference championship game, it needs to mean something.
That was Mike Griffith, Dog Nation, earlier, and really stirred up a hornet's nest here in Tuscaloosa. They're always doing a great job. I met with Scott Peoples earlier today. We were talking about this segment that we do with John Parker Wilson and talking about some things that we're going to be doing in the future. SEC Championship is available right there. They're giving away 2 tickets and hotel accommodation. Simply go to their page, like it, share that post. Your chance to win SEC Championship tickets. They're always giving away a lot of cool things on their Facebook account. Let's go to John Parker Wilson. John Parker, good afternoon, sir. Welcome into the game.
Man, thanks for having me. That was some pretty interesting comments right there.
Hey, I hear you, man. I mean, it just, it's Alabama didn't deserve. But I thought they backed up the committee's decision to put Alabama in and kind of validated putting them into the Final Four, right? Yeah,
I completely agree. If it wasn't a good decision, I understand the argument about not, the extra game, but they went out and won the game, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And I think the committee's trying to get the best 4 teams in it. And just you can't knock the SEC for having 2 of the best teams. They might have 3 of the best teams in 1 year that are the best teams in the country, especially if you look out on the West Coast. I think this conference is playing as good as football as anybody else out there. So you got to take that into effect of the schedule that these teams have to play week in and week out. And if it was up to that opinion, you'd automatically rule Notre Dame out for not playing a conference champion. So, this isn't the NFL. It's not where you have divisions within the conferences. It's not as clean as that. So there's got to be a little objectivity, in my opinion, for the selection committee. And I know we can argue all day long that there should be 8 teams, but right now there's 4 teams. I think last year they got the best 4 teams in. And that's why Coach Saban each week says you've got to go out and take care of your business. You got to go out and win the game, win it convincingly, do your job, and everything else will take care of themselves. And so far, Alabama's been able to do that.
Well, and I think the one thing that you look at Nick Saban, and from something that you were part of, that you helped lay the foundation, we're talking to former Alabama quarterback, color analyst for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, presented by Tuscaloosa, Toyota, John Parker Wilson. But you build trust with the committee because you can trust a Nick Saban team that they're going to show up, that they're not going to get beat 31-0 or 55-0 and get beat by somebody that they're not supposed to. They're going to give you that competitive game, and I think that's where the committee looks at it and says, okay, we're comparing a couple of things. We're going to trust a Nick Saban team, and you can also credit that to the legacy that they've created here and kind of the standard that, if you put Alabama there, they're going to show up.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that because they are very almost predictable in what the games are going to look like, right? They know they're going to come out and play hard. It's going to be a competitive game. I think you could probably say that about Clemson also. The way Dabo has built their program, they're in a lot of games, and in the situations, they've kind of earned that right too. So I think there's a lot of things that go into who's going to be the best 4 teams. Obviously, if Georgia or Alabama goes and wins this SEC championship, they don't have anything to worry about. So the good thing for the players is everything they want to accomplish is still out in front of them, and you just got to go out and win. Because I promise you, as a player, the only thing we're thinking about is winning the next game. It's really hard to think about the outcomes and what ifs. Now, if you're a team that is looking ahead and trying to get in for some miracle, sure. But the situation these 2 teams are in this weekend, just go out and try to win the ball game.
John Parker, I want you to kind of help us look at Kirby Smart's defense and talk about the similarities. And I know we could spend the next hour doing this, and maybe just a condensed version of what you see in their defense and compare it maybe to some of the schematic things that Nick Saban does here in Tuscaloosa. Yeah,
very similar. Obviously, Kirby spent most of his career with Coach Saban learning the ins and outs. And, hey, if it's broke, don't fix it, right? I mean,
sure.
Coach Saban has got a great, repeatable, sustainable defense. Kirby's recruiting very similar guys to Coach Saban's recruiting. So I think we're going to see a lot of overlap in what we've seen all year with Alabama to what we're going to see with Georgia. Now, I think Alabama's got a little bit better defensive line than Georgia. So at the end of the day, when you're a defensive coordinator, and we'll call Kirby Smart that guy, I know Mel Tucker's by title, but you got to play to what your strengths are, and most importantly, what the other team and the other offense is trying to do. So we've seen teams now for the past few weeks try to take away that deep ball from Tua and the Alabama offense. I see the same thing from Kirby. If you can drop 7 guys and let the 4 guys get pressure on the quarterback and try to stop the run, that's the only recipe for slowing this offense down, in my opinion.
Okay, John Parker, and I'm not trying to counter what you said because I obviously respect your knowledge of the game, but you look at stats, Georgia's not very good at creating pressure on the quarterback. Matter of fact, they're one of the worst teams in college football. When you look at it, I think they're about 100th in the country. As a season, they've only had like 20 sacks. It's worst in the SEC. How do you do it? I mean, because don't you have to bring extra bodies? And if you do that, then you're going to trade off somebody in the secondary, right?
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. They've only had 20 sacks this season. That's worse than the SEC. That's 101st in the entire FBS. So obviously not good. And I'm not saying that they're going to be able to do it. I'm just saying if you're going to create a recipe to stop Alabama, you've got to be able to drop those guys into coverage because they've got so many weapons. Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith. Then you throw Irv Smith in there. I just don't know how you're going to be able to get back there unless you're just sending constant 6-man pressures where it's not just one linebacker is coming. It's either 2 linebackers or that safety and linebacker where you're just trying to get the ball out of Tua's hands extremely fast. Well, then you've got to be really, really good at man coverage, and you've really got to trust your secondary because that's going to put every DB on an island. And we've seen what these guys can do, yards after contact, yards after catch. And, but for some way, Georgia's figuring out because they're 10th, 101st in sacks in the country, 10th in the country in scoring defense. So that's telling me they've got some guys in the secondary at linebacker that can make some plays.
Offensively for the Georgia Bulldogs, what do you see offensively in them?
Yeah, they're going to try to be a balanced attack, and I think that's when their best is when they can hit you with DeAndre Swift, their starting star running back, and Elijah Holyfield, with that 1-2 punch, but also letting Jake Fromm do what he does best, and that's kind of do what Tua does, sit back there, try to diagnose the defense and what's going on. So I look for them to try to sustain drives, right? Because if we've seen if the Citadel taught us anything, that 1, we don't like playing triple option offenses. 2, that they're really hard to call. Eli was amazing that game, calling that triple option. But 3, the best defense against Alabama is keeping 2 on the bench. So sustained drives, kind of keep it going. Auburn was able to do that in the first half where they got some first downs, could move the field, move the chains, convert 2 or 3 third downs on a drive. I think that's what you got to do against Alabama.
John Parker, let me go back to some positive that Auburn was able to do, and some other teams have been able to get some yardage. And it's, we normally don't give up any rushing. It's like we're always the best, and certainly we're one of the best this year. But we have shown that we can give up some yardage in rushing. What can be done to kind of fix those mistakes that we're making on our defense and not really getting gashed, but you know what I mean? It's just not the typical, nothing. We're not, we're giving up some.
Right. To me, when I've seen the opposing teams break those long runs, it's been when Alabama's lost contain on the edge. So not a lot of runs that I feel like have hit up the middle and, a power play that just gash in a gap and go when somebody's missing a tackle. I think our guys have been extremely good in making tackles, especially in the secondary. Xavier McKinney, Deontay Thompson, and even the two cornerbacks are doing very, very good at tackling guys. And, I know it's been a problem in the past. This year, very impressed with their tackling ability. I know that's something near and dear to Coach Saban's heart. But when this defense has given up those big plays, I feel like it's been on the side, the edge, the lose and contain, and then a guy gets lost. Whether that's a miscommunication inside or just linebackers getting confused with their eyes. But if you could just seal off the edges and spill everything inside to those big guys, Dylan Moses and Quinnen Williams, man, they're going to make some tackles.
We continue talking here to John Parker Wilson, presented by Tuscaloosa Toyota. John Parker, do you feel good about Saturday? What do you think? I know you always feel good, but is this the best opponent Alabama would have played up into this point?
I think so. I think with everything that's taken place, especially last year, look, this is a revenge game for them, and they know it. There's a lot to be said about it, and especially the preparation and getting ready for the game. Kirby going against Coach Saban. Georgia thinking they had the game won multiple times, especially in overtime, and then Tua comes in and takes it away from them. I think this is going to be a battle. It's going to be a physical match. I think the thing that Alabama does, and showed it against Auburn, it's going to be a physical game. I feel like we've got an edge. Auburn at the end, the fourth quarter, they were spent. They didn't want any more. So if it's going to be one of those old school football games, I feel like we're going to win the battle. If it's a shootout, I feel good about that also. But tell you what, these are two good teams. I think anybody we play from here on out definitely has the capability of beating Alabama if Alabama doesn't play like they've been playing all year. If they, for some reason, do some uncharacteristic things of turn the ball over or being unsound, which there's nothing that leads me to believe that. But, these big games comes down to 4 or 5 big plays. We've been on the good side of that so far this year. I think we'll continue to do that, but you just got to go out and continue to execute, continue to play well.
John Parker Wilson, you walk in that Alabama football building, you can feel the championship atmosphere. You walk in at Tuscaloosa Toyota, Scott Peoples and that amazing staff, you can feel it inside. They know exactly it's like a well-oiled machine. Service department, the sales department, the rent-a-car side as well. Talk about Tuscaloosa Toyota and the amazing dealership that Scott Peoples and his staff have been able to build on Skyline Boulevard.
Yeah, just a good culture, and that's pretty interesting you said that. There is a lot of comparisons of walking into that football stadium or the football building. Tuscaloosa Toyota just got one of those feels. And I know it personally from working with them guys. I've also sent family members there that have bought cars there and friends. So for me to be able to do that and send somebody and trust that they're going to get the best deal possible, that they're going to be treated right, that their car is going to be serviced, not to mention you're buying a hell of a product in Toyota that I've been driving since I turned 16. And then you throw in the staff that Scott Peoples, that Jeff Baker and those guys have. I think it's just a home run all the way around. And sounds like they're giving out some tickets too on their Facebook page. So pretty sweet deal they got going on there. Check them out at tuscaloosa.youtube.com.
Hey, appreciate you, John Parker, man. I'll see you in Atlanta. Thank you, sir.
Roll Tide.